Be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Subscribe to Next Up and all of its members. Hi guys, it's Splash and Crash here on another video, and in today's video we are going to be going over the history of the 76ers organization and their key players. So all the way on the left, there's Charles Barkley, followed by Moses Malone, Wilt Chamberlain, Allen Iverson, Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, Dolph Schayes, and Dr. J. Julius Erving. So all of these guys were the leaders of their eras, with the exception of Ben Simmons, who is probably going to be the greatest second option in 76ers history. So today, what we're going to be doing is we're going to look at every single one of their major successful eras. Plus, we are also going to look at their modern era and their organization going into the next decade or so. So let's get started. So the first era we will be looking at is the 76ers during the time of Dolph Schayes. At this time, they were actually called the Syracuse Nationals, and they played in Syracuse, not 76ers, but the NBA has given the history of the Nationals. They have given the credit for that to the 76ers. This era was led by NBA Hall of Famer Dolph Schayes, and Schayes is one of probably the second superstar in NBA history, and he was the best player in the league at one point. So Schayes was a power forward / center. He was one of the earliest superstar big men, and he's what you'd expect from an early big man. He was tall, he was good at rebounding, and he was really good at scoring very close to the basket. Schayes, he's not as good as any of the other players that we'll be talking about today, but he was an incredible leader, and in their first season as a team, Schayes was able to lead the 76ers to a 51-13 record, along with a finals appearance. So, since there's a different amount of games back then, a 51-win season back then is like a 65-win season this year in the modern NBA. And I know some of you guys don't watch basketball and you don't know the significance of a 65-win season, but basically, a 65-win season in the NBA is pretty much a 13-win season in the NFL. So that means that the 76ers had the equivalent of an NFL 13-win season in their first season as a team. They were also the best team in their conference this season, and they were one game away from winning the NBA Finals. So that means, imagine for those NFL fans out there, imagine if there's a new NFL expansion team, okay? In their first season, they win 13 wins. They're the best team in their conference, and they almost win the Super Bowl. Imagine if an expansion team did, expansion team in their first year did that. That would be so crazy. That's basically what the 76ers were able to do in their first season. Dolph Schayes helped lead the 76ers to 3 finals appearances in the next 6 or 7 years, and he also led them to their first championship. The next era in 76ers history was the Wilt Chamberlain era. So back then there was no free agency, so they were able to trade for, at the time, the greatest player of all time. And the way they did this was they got very lucky with this. So at the time they were the Syracuse Nationals, but basically what happened is, Wilt Chamberlain's team, the Philadelphia Warriors, decided to move to San Francisco. And Wilt Chamberlain wasn't happy about this because Wilt Chamberlain lived in Philadelphia for his entire life and he wanted to stay there. he was also unhappy with the Warriors because they were unable to win a championship. So what Wilt did was the 76ers realized this, so they moved to Philadelphia. And then Wilt Chamberlain wanted to stay in Philadelphia, so he demanded a trade to the 76ers. So that's how they were able to get Wilt Chamberlain. Wilt Chamberlain won multiple MVPs with the 76ers, including a season where he averaged 33 points and 21 rebounds, which is absolutely insane. Wilt Chamberlain has the craziest stats of all time, but the 76ers were still unable to win a championship. And in 1965 to 1966, in that season, it was the season before, around basically one of the seasons around that time, Wilt Chamberlain got into a fight with his teammate because his teammate said that Wilt Chamberlain was a ball hog and that he couldn't lead the team to wins. And Wilt Chamberlain obviously won because he was a 7'1", ultra-athletic, superstar. And Wilt Chamberlain was the 7'1" giant who could run a 40-yard dash in 4 seconds. Yeah, he was also so strong that he broke a player's foot by dunking the basketball, and the ball went through the hoop and hit that player's foot. So his teammate got absolutely destroyed in this fight, but Wilt Chamberlain realized that teammate was right, and the next season, Wilt Chamberlain started passing more, and he was finally able to beat the most dominant team of all time, the Boston Celtics, in the conference finals, and he was able to bring the 76ers their second championship. The next era in 76ers history was the Billy Cunningham era. However, we are not going to talk about this era because Billy Cunningham didn't lead the 76ers to any success, and they were absolutely horrible with him. And they even had a season where they went 9-73, which is the second worst season of all time. Yeah, this was even worse than than their worst season when they were tanking, and they were trying to I don't understand how that happens, but anyways, because they were so bad in the late 60s and early 70s, I'm not going to talk about the Billy Cunningham era. So the next significant era in 76ers history was the Julius Erving era. So Dr. J was the best player in a different basketball league, the ABA, but in 1976, the ABA merged with the NBA and created the modern, all of the players in the ABA went into a dispersal draft, which, all of the new NBA teams got a bunch of new players. Dr. J got drafted to the 76ers. He was immediately able to lead them to a NBA Finals appearance, in which they lost, and he proceeded to lead them to one other Finals appearance before 1983. So he led them to a Finals appearance in his first season on the 76ers, and he led them to a Finals appearance in 1982, but he wasn't able to get over the hump and actually win the championship as the number one option. But in the 1982 offseason, the 76ers signed another superstar, and they won a championship in 1983. We will be talking about that superstar in a second. But while Dr. J was on the 76ers, he won his fourth MVP, and he was one of the best players in the NBA, even though he was way past his prime. He was in his late 30s, and he was still dominating the NBA and was the best player. And even though he wasn't able to bring them a championship as a number one option, he still led them to a lot of success. Moses Malone only spent a few years on the 76ers, but he did a lot in those few years. Before coming to the 76ers, he was on 6 different teams in his first 3 years, but that was due to teams undervaluing him and trading him for almost nothing. He eventually got to the Rockets, where he won 2 MVPs and became the league's best rebounder. Moses Malone won. Then in the 1982 offseason, Moses Malone wanted to start winning again, So he decided to sign with the team that just made the NBA Finals, the 76ers. So the 76ers just imagine this. So I talked about this in my top 20 players of all time, but Moses Malone going to the 76ers is basically like Kevin Durant going to the Warriors. So the Warriors were the best team in the NBA, were a top 2 team in the NBA, and they signed an MVP. And the 76ers basically did the exact same thing. Obviously, the 76ers were pretty unstoppable with 2 MVPs on their team and 2 other All-Stars. They won 65 games and swept the best team in the NBA, the Los Angeles Lakers, in the finals. Moses Malone only spent a few years but in the 76ers, but he was able to get them their third and final championship, and he was also able to win an MVP and lead them to the conference finals multiple times after that championship. The next era we will be talking about is the mid 80s to late 80s, led by Charles Barkley. So this era is by far the least successful era in 76ers history, and except for, I guess, the modern era, but Charles Barkley was the best player on these teams, and right after he was drafted 2 seasons after that third championship, led by Dr. J and Moses Malone, and that team was absolutely incredible. Due to Dr. J and Moses Malone's age, they grew old and retired before Charles Barkley could win a championship with them. So if Charles Barkley was drafted just a few years earlier, they would have had a big 3 of Dr. J, Moses Malone, and Charles Barkley, which would have been absolutely incredible. These 3 players did play together, but like I said, Dr. J and Moses Malone retired before Charles Barkley could win anything. So Barkley would end up with no championships, but he was just so dominant while he was on the 76ers that I had to include him on this list. He averaged in the high 20s in points and almost 15 rebounds a game, even though he was only 6'5". That is absolutely incredible, and I just couldn't leave him off this list. The next player we have is Allen Iverson. AI should have never made an NBA Finals. If you look at his team, no one predicted Allen Iverson to ever make an NBA Finals with the rosters he had. His teams were absolutely trash. He only played with one other All-Star, and that was Kembe Mutombo, and Mutombo probably shouldn't have even been on the All-Star game, but Mutombo was a pretty good defender, so but the fans voted Mutombo in, and Mutombo also had a lot of popularity. So Allen Iverson basically played with no other All-Stars when he was on the 76ers. And he was able to win an MVP, and he got them to the finals with arguably the worst finals roster in NBA history. The only other team that you could make an argument for having a worse roster than this was the 2007 Cavaliers. But Allen Iverson was able to lead this 76ers team to the finals, and he was able to win a game against Kobe and Shaq and their Lakers team. That is mind-boggling to me. Allen Iverson dropped 50 in one of those finals games, and despite his small size, he was only about 5'10". Which is the height of average humans, and he was able to dominate in the NBA despite being this short compared to the other players. To me, that is absolutely incredible, and he 100% deserves to be in this. So after Allen Iverson left the 76ers, they were an okay to trash team, and in the early 2010s, they decided that they were going to tank. This is known as the Sam Hinkie Sixers, and they had some of the worst seasons in NBA history, including a 17-game losing streak. After tanking, the 76ers ended up with multiple top 10 picks, including 5 top 3 picks. 3 of these top 3 picks turned into busts, but 2 of them, Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, turned into stars. Ben Simmons was drafted number 1 overall in 2016, and Joel Embiid was drafted number 3 overall in 2014. Both of these players dealt with massive injury concerns, massive injuries, and people thought they were both going to be busts because of those injuries. Joel Embiid missed his first 2 seasons with an injury, and people thought he was going to be the next big center who turned into a bust because of injuries. But Joel Embiid surprised everyone and played like an all-star in his rookie season. Ben Simmons missed his entire rookie season with an injury, but he came back the next season and won Rookie of the Year. Joel Embiid is pretty much Hakeem Olajuwon, but slightly worse. Joel Embiid is the best post player in the NBA. He's an incredible inside player. He has so much strength, and he's just an absolute beast. Ben Simmons is a 6'10" point guard. He's the definition of a positionless player. He was drafted to be a power forward / small forward, and he's playing point guard. He's literally Magic Johnson without a 3-point shot. Ben Simmons, the 76ers have made the playoffs twice, and they're about to make their 3rd playoff appearance with these 2 players leading the team. In both of their past 2 playoff appearances, Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid have led the 76ers to the second round, but they lost to the Boston Celtics, who that year in the Eastern Conference they were going insane, and they also lost to the Toronto Raptors last year, who won the NBA championship. And the 76ers were probably the better team last year. Just Kawhi Leonard hit one of the craziest buzzer beaters in NBA history. And yeah, so Kawhi Leonard got incredibly lucky on that shot, and if not for that shot, the 76ers would have probably made the finals. Last year's the year I specifically want to talk about for the 76ers. So they had 3 superstars. No, they had 2 superstars in Joel Embiid and Jimmy Butler. They had Ben Simmons, who was a near superstar, and they had Tobias Harris, who was pretty much an all-star. So that's a big 4 plus JJ Redick, who is one of the best 3-point shooters in the NBA, and he was having his best season last year. So if the 76ers were arguably the best team in the NBA, and if not for that Kawhi Leonard miracle shot, they probably could have won the NBA championship. So the only weakness this 76ers team has is 3-point shooting, and that has mostly to do with Ben Simmons refusing to take 3-pointers, and it's the reason why they are so bad this season. I think the 76ers can win a championship. They just need to stop going all in on a bunch of superstars and start looking for more depth. I think the Al Horford signing was horrible, and it's the reason why they are so bad this season. But I think the 76ers could be a dark horse finals team this year. If they just bench Al Horford, I think they can get back to the level they were last season. This team, I think the 76ers might be able to win a championship in 2020. Ben Simmons just needs to become, even if Ben Simmons is a garbage 3-point shooter, as long as people actually, he makes it so people actually guard him when he's at the 3-point line, then I think the 76ers could easily win a championship in the next 5 years. So yeah, that's it for the history of the 76ers. They've won 3 championships in their history, and as a level, I think their franchise is closer to a Bulls, Spurs, and Warriors level, even though they only have 3 championships, while those 3 franchises have 5 or 6 championships. Based off the players they've had in their history and the amount of talent their team has always had, I think the 76ers can still be put in that conversation for the third greatest franchise of all time. So yeah, that's it for this video. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Also, comment down below what video you think I should do next. Anyways, bye.